Hi, this is Matt at State of Flux here with a review for The Stand, both the book and the 2020-2021 TV show, not the older TV movie event series that we'll talk about later. The Stand was one that I was really interested in because I'd read on a couple of different accounts that this is Stephen King's favorite work, or the book that he thinks that is his best. Now, he said that about a couple of different books, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. Everybody kind of loves, like every creative loves a different child at one point or another. That's sort of natural. But this one came up quite a few times, so I was really excited to read this right after I first got into, reintroduced my love of Stephen King, because I'd never read it, and I didn't honestly even know what it was about. So I started reading this in February of 2020. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. There's nothing more absolutely terrifying than going through a real-life pandemic while also reading The Stand, which is about a pandemic that ends the world. So, I started reading this, but then I took a long pause. Because that was too traumatic. That said, after I sort of hit a level of comfort once more, I picked it back up. Several months down the line, and this one took me a lot longer to get through than a lot of his other books. It's not necessarily the page turner that other people argue it to be. I do like it. I think it's a very good book. So far it's one of my favorite books of his, but I do think he kind of oversells its qualities, and I can imagine that by the time I finish reading all of his books, this probably won't be in my top 10 anymore, because even as of now, it's in like the number 7 spot. 7, there we go. That said, I do like it. And the biggest quality this story has is the character Frannie Goldsmith. I think she's one of the best characters that Stephen King's ever created. I absolutely love that woman. She is such a great character, and I looked forward to any time I saw her name pop up, and I was like, oh, we're going to be spending more time with her. And that was my favorite takeaway of the book. That said, I think the first act of the book of when the pandemic is spreading is very powerful. It is, he writes it in a way that makes it very real, very realistic. And as I say, as I was reading that, I was living it, so he kind of hit most things like right on the head, right down to the president or political officials denying that it's happening so as to not scare the public, which happens in a throwaway line, but hot damn, he was right. The book kind of meanders for a good while in the middle, and I do think it comes together well in the last act, which I know the trope is that he doesn't know how to end his book, or his books, but I felt this book ended well. I thought it was the middle section that took me the longest to get through. As I say, when I wasn't following Frannie, I kind of wasn't necessarily as invested. That being said, I had heard that the ending of this book was not one that he loved, and so when they committed to making a TV show for HBO Max, they were working with him to sort of rewrite the ending. And so I was kind of reading it with that in mind, that I was going to have a lackluster ending, and I mean, to some extent it kind of is. It's more open-ended than lackluster. But I liked the ending that was there. The one element I haven't talked about is Randall Flagg. He is a really interesting and compelling character, and one we will talk about again in future videos, from what I understand. This was my introduction to Randall Flagg. I'd never read a book knowingly with his character in it. So I had heard that he's kind of the Stephen King big bad of his entire Dark Tower franchise. This book makes me compelled to read The Gunslinger and some of the other ones that his character may or may not appear in. I'm not sure when he shows up, but he is the villain of the Dark Tower, so I'm excited to get through those. And I've never read a Dark Tower book, so that'll be kind of cool. But yeah, I like this. I hear this is kind of the precursor to what the Gunslinger and the Dark Tower series is kind of predicated on, so I'm excited to get to those. Pivoting now to the 2020 TV series, what the fuck was that? Is not good, is an understatement. I think the casting is okay, in that they cast a lot of people I like. Heather Graham's in it. I like James Marsden. Alexander Skarsgård. If you've watched my Star Trek reviews, which I think you should, you'll know that Whoopi Goldberg is one of my favorite actresses and performers of all time. I absolutely adore her. But, well, they cast actors I like. They didn't always cast them appropriately. I think the two best cast in the entire series are Alexander Skarsgård as Randall Flagg and Whoopi Goldberg. She seemed perfectly fit for her role. That said, what the hell was Ezra Miller doing? Like, what was that? Is inexplainable is what that is. And I have to give it to them. They made acting choices, and they committed to them 100%. Now, if I were directing, I would have pulled them aside and been like, whatever you're doing, just stop and go a different direction, because this is inhuman in the least pleasant way. It's genuinely the thing that steals your attention whenever that character comes on screen, and it like just ruins everything. It's genuinely ruinous for the whole show. Even though their character isn't in that much of it, holy hot damn, not good. But in addressing the ending, which is the thing I was most excited for, to see like what Stephen King would do for an ending for this book, were he to write it now, I like the ending that they give. It's fine. It gives a firmer conclusion, I guess, but not a great ending. I don't think it's any better or worse than the one in the book. The biggest misstep, besides whatever the fuck Ezra Miller was doing with the show, is they go about it in the weirdest way. They kind of do a Lost thing, where they give you like the main crux of a problem, the event that sets everything in motion. And then they do the forward and backward in time throughout the entire thing, which worked perfectly for Lost. It had a narrative that really demanded that it unfold that way. And in fact invented didn't invent, but it popularized that style of storytelling for apparently 2+ decades to come. That said, The Stand, the way the book unfolds, is perfectly fine. In fact, I think it works better because you don't know what's going to happen next. And having lived through a pandemic, and my understanding is they were making this during a pandemic or right before the pandemic or whatever, you'd think that would have occurred to them that, like, hey, let's do it the way that it unfolded for all of us, and that level of uncertainty and all that jazz. As is, that show's a woof, and I urge you to not watch it. If you're going to watch it at all, watch the last 15 minutes of the last episode just to see what Stephen King would have given you for an alternate ending. Some of the performances, as I say, are good. Like Odessa Young, I believe, is the actress playing Frannie Goldsmith. She's not who I would have cast, but I mean, she does a good job. She is a good actress. I like James Marsden in a lot of things, and he performs in this, I guess, adequately enough, because I like him. I don't know that I would have casted him in this, but yeah, this is just a series of misfires. I was very excited for The Stand. I think this does offer a story that could be told over a televisual format if you do it correctly. Now, it is my understanding that the original Stand miniseries is considerably better. Only, brought down by its insanely low budge of being a network TV event show. And maybe it wasn't network, maybe it was USA, I can't remember. But is it worth me watching? Is it worth me investing my time, or do I just like back off and say, I've stood as much as I needed to stand, and here we are. So let me know about that in the comments down below. I give the book a very firm 3.5 stars, and I give the show a very perplexed 2 stars. Pardon me, I'm dying. Oh God, I hope I don't have it. Thanks for watching, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.